Well, anyway, my theory as to why Scott Walker is running away with all of the Republican preferential polls right now is precisely because he fought back. This same bunch of people tried to destroy Scott Walker. Not just his career. They tried to destroy his life. They tried and targeted his family for the same purpose. They used illegal tactics. They incorporated the Democrat legislature in Wisconsin and the judiciary, and they attempted to rig the game against him. 3 elections in 4 years Scott Walker won. They tried to recall him twice under bogus premises. And he beat them back. And he beat them back with substance issues, conservatism, you name it. He beat them back. And he has reformed that state. He has reformed the education system. He has diminished the power of a minority bunch of union people. And he's grown that state. They have a budget, tax cuts. They have unemployment, which is going down. Literally, Scott Walker, in my mind, has shown the blueprint for the rest of the Republican Party how to do this. Okay, so the Politico today has picked up on this. We're going to move to soundbite 8, Mike, instead of 20 and 21. We'll come back to those. In the Politico, Rush Limbaugh rallies behind Scott Walker. Conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh says that Scott Walker is what's been missing from the Republican Party, a fighter. Scott Walker's doing it, and he's running away, and these clowns on our side don't even understand it yet, Limbaugh said yesterday in his radio program. Limbaugh said that Walker might not be right on all the issues, but the base is going to support him because he's fighting back. That is what has been missing. And I do believe that the initial wave of support is simply applause and recognition for Scott Walker being gutsy and standing up to these people, which our base voters have not seen anywhere near enough of. And when the Republican Party doesn't stand up to these people, the Republican Party is not even defending its own voters, who are also attacked and assaulted and lumped into all these defamatory allegations of racism, sexism, bigotry, war on women, and all of this rot-gut dribble. And there's one guy who stood up to it. Ted Cruz stands up to it, and note that he's pretty popular, too. And Marco Rubio's had his moment standing up to it. Note he's pretty. You take a look at the bottom of the Republican poll and find out who's not as popular right now, and you'll also find they're the ones that talk about working with these people. They're the ones that talk about compromising with them. The people on the tail end of these polls with the least support right now are the ones that are talking about, well, you know, we were not sent to be confrontational. We got to work with them. We got to make Washington work. And Washington working, as defined by being run by Democrats, is the problem in this country, and that's what our voters want stopped. And they have expressed it in 2 straight midterm elections. It can't be any clearer. So to me, makes perfect sense that Scott Walker right now is being supported, vastly supported, over any of the other candidates right now, simply because he's fighting back. It's like I told you, it's one Romney fundraiser, bulk donor, and so forth that I ran into on a golf course not long ago, who I was convinced if Romney ran again would be right in there raising money and bundling and all that. And I figured this guy would know whether indeed, now this is probably 6 weeks ago now, and I figured this guy would know if Romney's really going to run or not. So I walked up and said, look, I know you're being peppered here with this question, but tell me, you think Romney's going to go? He said, I don't know, but I hope not. And I was taken aback. This guy's only raised millions for the guy. What's what he said? I'm tired. We need a fighter, Rush. We need a fighter. You know who I like? And he named Rick Perry. Now, the point of this is that here was somebody who'd gone all in with Mitt Romney, loved him, great guy, and so forth, but even he reckoned we need somebody fighter, and that's Scott Walker has written the blueprint on that. And not just written the blueprint, he's built the house from the blueprint. Okay, so we got the Politico story. So this led to, they picked up on this at Fox News. Today, Karl Rove was on Fox, and Bill Hemmer was talking to him, and Hemmer said, wait a minute now. Yeah. Hemmer is quoting, let's see if it's, Well, now, wait a minute here. Oh, I take it back. That's number 9. Okay, the first one is O'Reilly last night. And O'Reilly says to Karl Rove, he said, Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin leads the poll, 15%. I don't think that tells us very much. Jeb Bush not going to run in Iowa. I don't even know if he's going to compete there. He's a moderate, and that's a conservative caucus. Am I wrong?
The interesting thing in this poll is not exactly where everybody is, but that there was so much movement between October and today for Scott Walker, and you have to chart it to one fact. He went and made a fantastic speech at the Iowa Freedom Forum, which got played on radio. That's why there was a lot of movement on behalf of Walker, because he made a good speech and it got the buzz. But there's going to be a lot of campaigning between now and next February, 12 months away.
Now, as everybody knows, I like Karl Rove. Karl Rove is a friend of mine, and I don't. Karl Rove's not an enemy to me. He is to a lot of people, but he's not me. I have a good relationship with him and so forth. But I think he's dead wrong here. Scott Walker is not where he is because we played sound bites of his speech in Iowa on the radio. That's what Karl meant there. Well, he made a fantastic speech at the Iowa Freedom thing, and it got played on the radio, and that's why there was movement and buzz for Scott Walker long before he got to Iowa. The reason Iowa shocked him, because they're not on, this is what amazes me. I would think that everybody in the Republican establishment would at least know what Walker's done. They have to. And I would think that they would be able to understand how big it is, what he's accomplished in that state, a blue state. But he showed up in Iowa already vigorously supported. But they're trying to say that he showed up a nobody, and he made a great speech which just shocked everybody because they all thought he was dry ball and dull. I mean, that's all the talk about where'd he go to get his charisma transplant. And that's what they think of him. And he gives a great speech. That supposedly shocked him. And then it got played on the radio, and that explains the 50%. And I just think that's dead wrong. And I think they're fooling themselves if that's what they think explains Scott Walker's standing in these early polls. Anyway, so the Hemmer bite now, that was last night, this morning. Bill Hemmer cites all this. He's got Rove in there. And this is how that conversation went.
Rush Limbaugh was making the case that Walker, people like him because he fights back. How do you see that?
We need to take this news with a little bit of caution. We shouldn't get a case of premature surveyitis. At this same point in 2007, the front runner in the polls was John McCain with 21%. He came in fourth. At this point in 2011, Huckabee led. He didn't even run. We'll see a lot of movement, and the leader now is not likely. It rarely is the leader later.
Now I understand this because clearly Walker is not Karl's choice. Obviously, Karl is a Jeb Bush man, and I mean that's common sense and understandable. So no beef there. But I don't. If Bush had come out on top of this poll, I don't think Karl would be rejecting the poll as handily as he's rejecting this one. They'd be attaching meaning to it. I am not attaching a long-term meaning to this. I'm not endorsing Walker. I have no idea what's going to happen in his campaign down there. I'm just telling you that I think I know why he is scoring around 50% or higher in all of these polls right now. I know the Republican base. You do too, folks. You are it. We are it. You know how frustrated people. Here's a guy who's... I'm being repetitive. Everything we are up against, he has beaten. And we don't see anybody else even trying. We don't see any... Maybe, Ted Cruz is, but he's in the Senate. But Walker, in terms of actual governors, elected office holders, he's the only guy that's tried to beat them back. And he's done it 3 times in 4 years. Here's Albert Hunt, noted liberal, married to Judy Woodruff. Last night on Bloomberg TV, with all due respect. And that's the John Heilemann, Mark Halperin show. Let's see the big headline in the poll. Scott Walker at 16%, ahead of everybody else, whether Romney's in the field or not. He's in the lead. What explains this? Albert has come from nowhere to the front of the pack. Albert, what does this mean?
I was at a lunch on Saturday with a bunch of huge heavy hitters in money and politics and some pretty sharp political minds. They were talking the Republican field. No one mentioned Scott Walker. This poll was a shock, I think, to a lot of people. He made a terrific impression at that conservative forum. Look, this guy has proven that he's a player. This is not a flash in the pan. I think Scott Walker is really in that top tier now for real.
See that? He's talking to these big money people. That's what this means. And they never even heard of the guy. He comes out of the blue. It has to be because he made a speech and it got broadcast on the radio, right? Can't be anything else.